And it looks like we're going live. Excellent. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is the Portafilter Redux live stream. Actually, this is episode number 3 of the Portafilter Redux program. It's something that we started last month where we're revisiting episodes of the Portafilter.net podcast, a podcast that I did with a buddy of mine back then, Nick Cho, who you may know today as Your Korean Dad on TikTok. Him and I started a podcast. We were the first coffee podcast in the world back in 2005. And I thought it'd be kind of nice to revisit some of these episodes and just kind of discuss the episode and whatever was happening in the episode and how it correlates to today, or maybe it doesn't even match for today's world. So thanks for tuning in. I've been trying to figure out, if you've watched the previous 2 episodes, I've been trying to figure out whether or not the pre-recorded version or maybe live stream would be a better way. So I thought for episode number 3, we'd do live streaming, and that way you can interact and make commentary about the whatever topic is being presented in the podcast. And if you have any questions about those things, we can expand upon that a little bit easier. So let's get right into it. And thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. We also do a live stream called Coffee Q&A every once in a while, where we just talk about coffee and answer questions that you might have about that, and talk about different topics about coffee technique, coffee making, coffee competition, and things like that. And then on Thursday nights, we have the hangout, the weekly hangout at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, called Coffee and Cigars, where we sit down, talk coffee, talk cigars, and just kind of hang out for a couple hours and have a nice time at it. So if you got some time, to come join us for those other live streams. But let's get into it now. What we're going to be listening to is actually technically episode number 4 of the Portafilter.net podcast, and that this episode actually takes place down in North Carolina during the SouthEast Regional Barista Jam that's sponsored by the Barista Guild of America. The Barista Guild of America was an organization that was founded by some friends of ours on the West Coast, and then I was asked to be one of the people to come and help put it together. So we were a team of us that actually were in the formation of the Barista Guild, and it still continues today with the SCAA, or with the SCA, and it's now a worldwide organization. But back in these days, this is 2005, we would have regional jams that were sponsored by different companies. This particular one was sponsored by a company called Stockton & Graham, and Jeff Vojta is from Stockton & Graham is going to be there, and then as well as a whole bunch of people that are working in coffee back then. Some of them are still in the business today. Some may not be. I've lost the track of a couple of them. But let's get into it, and we'll just talk about it as we go along. And of course, if you have questions, drop them in the comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to podcast number 4. Today is Saturday, June 18th, and my name is Nicholas Cho. I'm your host, one of your hosts today. And to my left, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Jay Carrigan. Party on, Jay.
Party on, Nick.
And sitting to my right is a special guest who flew all the way from the other coast, from the Northwest. And her name is Bronwen Serna. Party on, Bronwen.
Party on, Nick and Jay.
Ooh, right on.
And I'm going to, right off the bat, I'm going to address what might raise a few eyebrows. Bronwen was on our first podcast a scant 3 weeks ago. And,
it's already been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks.
It's only 3 weeks?
Wow.
It's been about 3 weeks, and it was the day that Bronwen was getting off work and going down to Portland, and we were talking and stuff. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't the temptation to raise eyebrows and say, Bronwen was there, and then it was Fung, and now it's Bronwen again. What's up with this?
It wasn't my fault.
Well,
I blame it all on Nick.
Yeah, it's my fault. Bronwen came on.
It's my fault. I like hottie chicks.
Bronwen came. I should say we are podcasting today from beautiful Greensboro, North Carolina.
Greensboro, North Carolina.
Which is adjacent to High Point, North Carolina, the furniture capital of the world.
Oh, yeah. How was your furniture shopping today?
My wife, Susie, and I went furniture shopping. We went to Furnitureland South, which is a lovely time. Folks over there.
Wood?
Huh?
Was it wood furniture?
A lot of wood, a little teak here and there, a little mahogany.
As long as you didn't buy wicker.
We didn't see any wicker, and then we went over to a couple other places, and Susie bought a chair, a Ralph Lauren chair from some place over there. I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, business is good then.
No. It was on clearance. It was like $2 or something. But here we are. We're at the headquarters for Astoria General Espresso here in beautiful Greensboro, and we're almost closing up the Southeast Regional Barista Jam here, hosted by Stockton Graham and Company.
Stockton Graham.
And maybe we'll, if we can, we're sitting here in a conference room in the middle of General Espresso's headquarters here in Greensboro, and you got people walking all over the place. The jam is a couple hours from ending, and Bronwen's been working hard today, doing her thing, her shtick with the espresso machines and stuff. How did it go?
It went really well. I had a lot of fun. We got to talk coffee, meet the Southeast baristas. It's been really educational. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope all of them learned something.
Yeah.
If not, at least I hope they had fun.
Anything you picked up as far as any regional differences that you can see from your experience here today?
Yeah, there's a lot more coffee in the Southeast than I realized, which is great. A lot more than New York, which is very surprising. What's up with you guys up there in the Northeast? Come on.
They're kind of slow. Yeah, actually, it's the Southeast Jam is the biggest jam in the United States right now.
What is it? 100? How many?
100 participants, I think.
Over 100.
Over 100 participants.
I'd say about 110 in total. Good stuff. And so big thanks to the folks at GEE, General Espresso, and Astoria, and Stockton Graham and Company.
And Counterculture. Don't forget Counterculture.
And Counterculture, and all the other sponsors, like, I think...
Jeff T. and...
Carry Food Service.
Carry Food Service.
And if we're leaving anyone out...
Monin,
of course.
Monin.
Thank you, Donnie Harold.
Absolutely. Ambex.
The best handshake in the business from Donnie.
And Terry Davis.
Terry Davis. We wanted to see you up here, Terry, and you're not here. And
Terry Davis is no longer in the industry.
That's okay. Anyway, so Bronwen's here, and even though she's on the podcast again, we did want to take this opportunity, rather than doing like an interview kind of thing, to sit down and just kind of shoot the shit on a few topics of interest, I think, to baristas, especially nowadays. And let's go straight into it, shall we, Bronwen?
We shall.
Party on, Bronwen.
Rock on.
Party on.
Bronwen, but I feel left out now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. You know, the my Filipino kind of affinity kind of goes over in this direction now.
Well, she is sexier than I am, so I understand.
I'm sorry. Yes,
I understand.
So, and Bronwen's sporting the high bangs with the little red.
I love the Icelanders.
The Sonia look?
No, not the Sonia look. Actually, what inspired me was Asa, because I love Asa. She's great. She had the coolest hairstyle in Trieste, and she had the mini bangs going. I'm like, ooh, I want to try that on my hair.
The mini bangs.
The mini bangs.
Good stuff. We talked about it last podcast, and here it is in front of us, the newest issue of Barista Magazine.
I still haven't got my copy
with
yet.
trolls on the cover.
No, what are you talking about? With Nick Cho on the cover. Thank you very much. Do you see me?
No, where are you,
Keep
Nick?
looking.
Oh, look. Oh, there. No, there you are not.
Yes, keep looking. I am there. I'm
covered by the
I'm
E.
the cover girl.
Look under the E. In magazine.
Way top right.
Oh, there you are.
There I am.
Were you judging at this time?
I was keeping time.
Oh, look at, and you're like inserting yourself into the picture.
Well, you know, I need to. It was interesting, you know, and we can talk about this maybe another time.
Nick's right eye is on the cover.
It's better than my right.
Oh, I should check one thing. Mom, since you're out there, you can hear the audio from the podcast, right? That's playing, or am I just sitting here in silence?
Something else. So that's all good.
That would be something.
But here's the rundown of the topics of discussion we wanted to get to, and if we might end up skipping one or two, and if so, then we'll maybe catch up on a different podcast. You know, Bronwen's here.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear. Just want to make sure that you can hear the audio. Like I said, I'm using a different streaming server right now that I haven't really used before, so I'm kind of giving it a try to see if it might be something that's worthwhile. And also it allows me to meld the audio file live, and just want to make sure that works out great. So as long as it's working out great. If you have any questions, of course, about the content that we're listening to or anything, drop in the comments. We can delve more into it as well.
2004 United States Barista Champion, as well as a competitor at the World Barista Championship last year in Trieste, Italy, 2004, and a judge at the 2005 USBC, as well as myself. And then we both went through the World Barista Championship judges certification for next year. I missed it by one sensory score thing. Did you make it?
I passed. I'm so happy about that.
Congratulations.
There, here I come.
Curses. Anyway. So let's talk about barista competitions, and we'll talk about the equipment stuff. There's some interesting possibilities there as far as the espresso machines that we're going to be using at the next competitions.
I just heard that Senseos might get the contract.
better practice making your pods, kids.
Really, I sure wasn't VersaLab.
Oh, we might have to bleep that out. I don't know. We'll see how that gets past the censors.
I guess I should clarify on that. Bronwen made a dig about VersaLab, and back at that era, we had some issues with VersaLab. Actually, I was the one that had more of the issue, meaning that VersaLab came out with this grinder that was super pricey, and they still use it today. I think it's still available, and they were just super rude to us, they acted like jerk-offs, and so that really that pissed me off. And I was like, you know what, man, we don't ever have to support your efforts or talk well about your product ever again. So yeah, that's what that reference was, and that was what that was in reference to. And let's get back to it.
Sorry, FCC censors. Let's talk about the barista competitions and how they relate to the average day-to-day barista stuff. That's one of the big topics that's been out there. A lot of folks are like, it doesn't, have anything to do with being a barista. Now, let's talk about the judging a little bit. I know for me and Bronwen, who have been judges, we have to be a little careful. We don't want to.
Well, that's right. I'm the only non-judge.
You have to bribe me
here.
lots of money.
Well, we just have to be
if you
careful.
want me to talk.
Yeah, we just have to be careful because there are some stuff going on. There's no secret that there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on.
Accepting cash now for 2005.
So we'll talk about the judging a little bit. We want to hear from Bronwen about her experiences in Trieste. Most of us weren't able, even though that was almost a year ago or about a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
We didn't get to most of us didn't get to go out there and see that. So we want to hear about that and a little talk about the Barista Guild a little bit. We've all three of us coincidentally, or actually I should say not coincidentally, are directors on the executive council for the Barista Guild of America.
Ooh.
So we'll talk about the Barista Guild a little bit, maybe. And along those lines, where's the barista going? I want to hear Bronwen's thoughts on,
Where am I going? I'm going back home to Seattle after this. But...
Well, that too. But we'll talk about, some of the visionary sort of things going on with our craft. And let's see. We might have people coming in and out. Cindy Chang from Counterculture Coffee is walking in and out. Russell Chisholm from Easy Chair Coffee Roasters, is it?
And G Burger's here.
G Burger?
Barger.
What's all right, well, it's Barger.
Oh, right.
Come on, change your last name.
Russell,
G.
hold on. Russell deserves some airtime here because he just handed me a T-shirt.
Oh my God.
Beautiful. Look at these shirts.
Can you?
Yeah. Here.
Russell, come. Russell just handed me a T-shirt. It's size extra large, which is my size. It says on the back 2005 Regional Barista Jam. And
look, I got a medium.
This says Easy Chair. So you guys had these made just for this.
This is our design. Valerie Sutherland, who is our general manager at our shop, is also a very talented graphic designer. So she put that together in a hurry, and we were able to get them printed. We actually picked them up.
Modeling them right now. Very nice.
Picked them up Thursday afternoon.
That's great,
before we left.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty dicey.
Good stuff. You guys, so you had how many of these did you have printed up?
We brought 40. Some for the crew. Obviously, we wanted to wear them while we were here, but some to give away.
And they came in a really cool yellow school bus.
Yes.
Yeah.
How rad is that? They pimped out a school bus and trekked their way.
Yeah, tell us about your trips, your travels here.
Pimped out. Exhibit was all over that thing. That's right.
Exhibit should do a school bus next.
That's right.
It's come in pretty handy. We're taking 450 pounds of green coffee back with us, so we needed some space for that.
Wow.
But it did require...
Was it grown here in Greensboro?
No. Came from Stockton Graham, one of our sponsors. So,
very kind.
Thanks to those guys for helping out with the jam. That was incredible.
Russell, what's your name on the Barista Guild board and the Roasters Guild board?
I'm Coffee Slinger on both.
Coffee Slinger.
The Slinger.
The Slinger.
No anonymity there. So.
And to hype up, and again,
unlike some people.
You gave us each T-shirt, so we have to give you some airtime. So hype up your shop. Tell us about Easy Chair.
Well, we've been in business now for about 10 years. We do a fair amount of food business, which I'm not crazy about, but in a college town, we have to survive. It is
all the munchies and stuff going on all over the place.
Yeah, late night munchies.
Bronwen will tell you a little bit about how the people in the Northwest deal with the munchies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, staff of about 12 to 15, depending on how our peak time. We're very lucky, mostly full-timers right now, so people who are very dedicated. We have 7 down with us on this trip, 6 actually.
And some kids.
And a bunch of kids, yeah, to help out.
7?
Yeah.
That's more than you, Nick.
Well, 6.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 was, I think, the most, wasn't it?
Probably. Well, great.
Yeah,
well,
that's awesome.
We're continuing to see good stuff from the folks over in Blacksburg. Easy Chair.
We're trying to
Good
push
stuff.
it forward.
Yeah, those Virginia Tech students, Virginia Polytechnic University students. Hope they treat you nice.
They do.
And we know you're giving them the good stuff, so they should. Cool, Russell. Thanks for the shirts.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. Thank
you
you
guys
so
come
much.
down and see us if you're in Blacksburg.
We definitely will.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
I'm not going to Blacksburg.
Looks like, unfortunately, I was just looking online here, and looks like the Easy Chair coffee shop in Blacksburg has closed. And it looks like it closed back in 2019. So that's a shame to see that Russell's place is no longer there. I wonder what Russell's up to. Russell, if you happen to watch this, let me know how you're doing, what you're up to. All right, back to the show.
What am I going to be doing in Blacksburg next? It's
What, now you're too cool for Blacksburg?
No, I'm not too cool, too old. Back in the day, I live right outside of
Cool for Blacksburg.
Live right outside of Washington, D.C.
Cool for Blacksburg.
We would drive down. It's like a 4-hour drive, I think, to Blacksburg from D.C.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so
4 hours?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What, I make it to Vancouver and Portland at least once a month. You can't make it to Blacksburg.
All right, maybe we'll go down and see Russell and his crew down there, just to see the school.
Yeah, no excuses.
Anyway.
Only when school returns.
And maybe we'll talk to some other people in a little bit as well. And the last topic, if we get to it, this will be an interesting one. CoffeeGeek.com. They started their podcast this week, and we'll kind of we'll bust on them a little bit. So.
No comment right there, right now. Can I save it for later?
Save it for later. All right. Anything to add, Mr. J. Carragay?
I think we're good to go.
Or good to go. All right, let's go right into it. Barista competitions, United States barista competitions, regional USBC sanctioned competitions, world barista competition. So, Bronwen, how many competitions have you been to so far, or participated in some capacity?
See, I participated in, my first one was in Anaheim. I believe that was in 2001? 2000?
Cindy's over there. She's one of the.
I can't remember. That was so long ago. I'm getting old.
Oh, come on.
Whatever, I am.
Still got another foot or two to grow.
You too old.
No, I
too
drink
old for
too
high
much
school.
coffee for that.
Yeah.
But
Just as a reference point, back then Bronwen was right around 26 years old.
My first competition was in Anaheim, and then I did the Western Regionals that year. Did another Western Regional the following year. Did USBC in Boston, USBC in Atlanta. Did the World in Trieste. Competed a fair amount.
Yeah, and then judged it
judged at this past competition.
Yeah.
I enjoy these competitions, and I've done a few regionals and jams around the country, so that's been
cool.
A lot of fun.
Now, there's so many things we could talk about, but let's just focus on a couple of them. Let me ask you this question: has it always been La Marzocco's?
It has always been La Marzocco's.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of baristas. Yeah, a lot of baristas and coffee houses are very familiar with it. They're a big presence in the U.S. In Canada, I find a lot more variants. In the Southeast, I think Astoria is more common down here.
Sure.
Today I got to actually work on an Astoria.
Yeah.
Or this weekend rather, and it's not a bad machine. It took a little bit to get used to. The baskets are definitely smaller.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it was I saw great shots come out of those machines.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I mean, and then that's a great segue into our first topic. Now, this year, the SCAA and therefore the barista competition organizing bodies, they decided that they're going to go ahead and formalize the whole sponsorship process a little bit more, and so every sponsor level for competition is up for bid. And so, for instance, one of the people that I know have signed on early on for sponsorship is Monin. Donnie talked about that yesterday, that they're going to be the syrup sponsor for the WBC. The equipment sponsor has traditionally been, as you said, La Marzocco for many years. And whether it's at the WBC or regional and everywhere in between, you go, chances are you're going to see a La Marzocco Linea. Usually semi-automatics. This year we saw some automatics whipped out at the USBC. But this year, everything's up for bid. The whole game could change, and we might see our first competitions, at least in recently, that aren't using La Marzocco machines. The bidding process, has started, and so there's a couple different steps to it. There's some technical standards that need to be met for each of the machine manufacturers, that are up for to be the potential machine. But so thoughts. What?
So this is June 2005, and it was this era of time when the WBC and all the Barista Championship was becoming much more serious of a business. Like they were just starting to learn how to monetize, or just starting to implement monetization of their system. So basically, what this would entail, they would develop it so that Nick said that there's a whole technical process, and a machine company would submit their machine for review by the SCA or the WBC, and they would undergo technical evaluation. And what they did is they had people like Greg Skase, Barry Jarrett, and a number of other guys that would actually bring the machines together into one location, and they would put them through their paces, testing them for a variety of things that were. I wasn't part of that, so I don't really know all the technical details, but it was a pretty rigorous thing, and the manufacturers who wanted to participate in that would pay the WBC for that privilege of evaluation and then certification. And if the machines met a certain level of technical ability, they could then go forward and bid on the sponsorship. And at this time, La Marzocco was the machine sponsor, and I do believe it was this year that it changed. And this era of La Marzocco, the early 2000s, La Marzocco United States had been a company that had supplied espresso machines to Starbucks, and so they built a lot of Linea espresso machines at their Seattle facility, sold them to Starbucks, thousands of machines, and this is the era also when Starbucks was transitioning to super automatic machines. So a lot of their La Marzocco Lineas were flooding the market in the used market because there were just thousands of them coming available. Some people like myself and others, bought a machine or two to play around with and fix, and then, but La Marzocco at this point was in the WBC, and they were really building their reputation. They were really a company that was struggling for a little bit after they lost the contract with Starbucks. But they were really lucky and positioned themselves with the WBC because that really kind of helped propel them as the cool machine. And I always equated the La Marzocco to being like the Ferrari of espresso machine because it was the one that really was able to give you dual temperatures, consistent, and just kind of rock it nonstop. And, it was really especially in that era with the Linea, it was the best machine on the market. Now, after this point, this is, I think, when Nova Simonelli started to get involved with the Aurelia, and they would eventually win technical certification. La Marzocco passed as well, but Nova Simonelli was just going to throw so much more at it. They just threw so much more money and resources, both in terms of cash as well as personnel and equipment. So, for example, in this era, when we would help, because I was very involved with helping staging some of these championships, World Championships, the United States Barista Championship, and then, especially the WBC. But what happened was that, La Marzocco was still a very small and struggling company, so they would prepare a machine for the championship, like the WBC, and they would need to sell that machine in order to recoup some of that. Even at the USBC level, they would make a machine, they would use it in the competition, and then they would sell it. Whereas Nova Simonelli, because they were so much of a larger company, they would have their personnel fly out to wherever the location was, ship machines there that were actually dedicated for the championships. They would ship them out. They would put them in road cases, ship them out, set them up, use them, pack them up, send them back to Bremerton, to Bellingham, Washington, and yeah, so they just had a lot more resources, and that's what's to come after this point. But we'll worry about that at another point. But let's get back to our podcast.
What do the competitions look like without La Marzocco machines?
A bleak, deserted hell.
Sheesh, Jay, that's a little melodramatic, don't you think? No, I love La Marzocco. I love the guys that run it. It's an amazing machine.
Uh-huh.
It's certainly challenged a lot more machine manufacturers out there to constantly develop and refine and improve their machinery and their equipment as far as, where can we go in terms of espresso. I say bring it on. It's fun to work on different machines. Why can't baristas work on different machines?
I think one thing to keep in mind is that, what Bronwen says, is a reflection of what we believed at that time. For us, the La Marzocco was the best machine possible to own. It was the dream machine. And still today, the La Marzocco Linea is a battle tank. It's still available. Even the original design of the Linea is available today. And that's a 1970s era machine, and which is testament to really the battle worthiness of this machine. However, like I said, it's a 1970s era design machine. We're in the year 2005 here, and we're still like, oh, it's the most advanced. I don't know if it was the most advanced. And if I think about it now, was it the most advanced machine? Because there was the Linea, and then there was the GB5. And the GB5 only made its debut 2 months prior in Seattle during the World Barista Championship in Seattle. And I know this because I was one of the guys installing these new machines. I was also subsequently the first person to ever blow one up. Terribly embarrassing. So I don't know. I wonder, I love the nostalgia. I love the whole love for La Marzocco. But if I think about it now, what we're saying, I can't say with any certainty that the La Marzocco Linea was really at the cutting edge, because it was 20 years. It was over 20 years old by that point. So just a thought. It still rocks the house today. I still have 2 Lineas here at the roastery. So.
The mark of a good barista, especially a competition barista, can take any machine, any espresso, and any grinder and work with that and make a good shot, or a very drinkable shot, or a very decent shot, for that matter.
What do you think, Jay?
But why would you want to?
Because you can.
Oh, all right.
I mean,
I'm kind of luxuried with the La Marzocco at work, so it's kind of
luxuried.
Yeah, luxuried. I'm kind of spoiled in that respect. So
along with your Land Rover, and what else you got over there?
Well, the Ferrari, the 2 Ferraris, and my new Lotus Elise.
I did not have any
last
Ferraris.
week.
Nice.
Well, it's what happens when you travel around as a barista and you work as an assistant for the WBC Western Hemisphere coordinator.
You're right.
She takes the coordinator.
Whatever. Cindy, when are you going to pay me to be your assistant? Yeah, you hear that, John Sanders? I want a raise.
Here we go. Cindy Chang
from Land Rover driver.
Yeah, Cindy
That's
Chang
right. She's another Land Rover.
from Counterculture Coffee.
Yeah, but you guys have Land Rovers that are older, or that aren't older than 80, so that's not cool.
Well,
we're not cool.
It's not
Cindy.
a Land Rover unless it's a 70 or below.
We're not cool, Cindy.
let's watch.
I'm not
Those
cool.
aren't real Land Rovers.
Not cool.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we don't talk over each other too much. We're not the Coffee Geek podcast. Tweet. Anyway, okay. So yeah,
I should tell you, so Coffee Geek podcast. There is, if you guys are familiar with coffeegeek.com, they are a website that's also about coffee. A lot of home coffee enthusiasts will use that site. And when we all started out, that was really one of the first forms available. So a lot of coffee professionals also, or at least those who are just burgeoning coffee professionals, were on that board back then. And we all got to know Mark Prince, the founder of the board, Pretty darn well. Like I would say that, especially back then, we were all good friends, hanging out, talking. And but I think Mark was always a little bit jealous or irritated that we were able to launch a podcast before he did. And I don't know if he was even really thinking about podcasting when Nick and I started this one, but it's funny to hear the little digs on each other.
Well,
yeah,
what I would like to see equipment-wise, I know a lot of us have talked about this, new grinders.
New grinders.
Can we actually have a grinder that doesn't overheat the way that, trying to grind per
Are
shot?
people really pissed off about this?
Yes, I am.
Everyone's upset.
What?
Why?
Why?
Well, keep in mind, though, with the grinders, you can bring whatever grinder you want to competition.
Oh, yeah.
I think what you're saying is that there is no grinder that we can really...
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
I think grinder manufacturers need to step up and improve their technology. Machine manufacturers do it all the time.
Yeah.
Why can't grinder manufacturers do the same thing?
You know who has a really nice grinder right here? VersaLab. I stopped the show again.
I'm not going to make any comments.
I stopped the show.
Once upon a time, my mom...
mean to you.
My mom, who's a very nice lady and very well respected by her friends, always said to me, if you don't have anything nice to say, maybe you shouldn't say anything at all.
Didn't your mommy say that to you, Nick?
No, she said
She said, tear them all down and beat them all to hell.
She said, 너 가서 빨리 닦고 목욕하고 그런 거나 해. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bulgogi.
That's again, two Filipinos and a Korean.
See. This coming year, we'll find out in the next few months who the machine sponsor is going to be for the U.S. Barista Championship, and then I think that Cindy, I can't talk. If they need to find out what the machine is for the USBC, and then those are the machines that are going to be used for all the regionals, right?
That's right. But whatever. When the sponsorship does change over, it will. We're going to finish through a year with the regionals on the machines that we have right now.
So which ones then? Do you know?
No, right now we're still using the La Marzocco's.
For the regionals?
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that won't change no matter what.
That's what we. No, it will change when the overall sponsor changes. But this September, we are still going to use the La Marzocco's for the Southeast Regional Barista Competition.
So you're saying midway through the competition calendar, if it changes, then they're going to change the machines.
No, the change should be occurring at a national competition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all these
until April.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
When will you guys decide?
I'm not sure. That's not my decision.
That's technical standards.
That's up to
John Sanders.
Colonel Sanders.
Quit traveling and actually test those machines, please.
The Colonel's making new seasonings.
He's adding an 8th herb and spice. 8th herb and 9th spice.
12.
It's 7.
It's 11 herbs.
11? Then it's a 12?
He's working on number 12.
Roaster G. Barger says 11.
Look, my people.
I have an idea of what herb he's going to use.
Look, my people aren't good at math, okay? So we'll move on to the next thing. So the question that keeps coming up after every competition, and I'm going to go and make another bold statement, especially from the folks who don't perform very well. I just said it. They complain, what does this competition have to do with being a barista? You said you wouldn't talk about that when I told you that. When? When I didn't do very well, and I told you all that. Well, with Jay considering he whipped out the newest little feature at the competition, the latte art pouring, the latte art water pouring.
Well, it was important.
It was important. It was good stuff.
It's a whole presentation. That's what people don't understand. It's a whole presentation.
You guys should have seen it. So he's pouring his water for the judges, and he pours the most beautiful rosetta that you've ever seen with his water. It's freaking amazing. Did you
it was really tough because
full of food coloring.
You don't understand. That thing was really tough because unlike our champion like Fung and like yourself, Bronwen, who has just tremendous amounts of talent in this whole craft.
I use steroids.
Well, what I do.
No, I'm kidding.
And Andro and Barista, we're gonna check the trolls for give him a pee test. Pee into this cup, trolls. We're gonna test you.
But no, really, it's like you see people like John Lewis, who's got all of this grinders and water fountains, and he's got some sort of shells and handmade cups, and I'm just like, oh my God, my temper is small compared to this guy. So
temper's small.
So I had to try something,
You're talking about John Lewis, Cafe Doma, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene.
So what do you do?
Yeah, I should mention John Lewis, who's a friend of ours. He's always been a very incredibly thoughtful barista. Like, I've always felt that I had good qualities as a barista, but this guy's on a whole nother level. Like, he is just thinking about the craft and thinking about hospitality just in whole nother levels. I was always very, very impressed and excited to see his performances, and really, really fantastic barista, man.
You have to
Shake it up a bit.
Yeah.
You have to use a little water latte art.
That's right.
Get a bigger tamper.
But you can only use what you've been given.
Okay,
Ken, I can make you different kinds.
for the folks who
right on, Ken.
For the folks who didn't see it, so Jay's going up to there and he's shaking as he's pouring the water and his hand is shaking. So he goes ahead and just shakes it all the way and goes a little latte action for you, Judge, with the water. It was awesome. I was emceeing him and I almost fell over. But anyway, so going back to the topic, how are these competitions relevant? If at all, are they not relevant? Which is generally when it's brought up, the folks are saying, this doesn't have anything to do with my job as a barista. There's no such thing as a 5-star espresso bar anyway. This whole competition is bullshit. We need to do this. We need a team thing. We need to do this with, where it's like, I don't know, how many shots of espresso can you pull in 20 seconds and all that stuff. So what do you think, Bronwen?
I think it is really relevant to the average barista.
How so?
For the very first competition that I competed in Anaheim, I didn't place at all. I got like 10th, 11th, or something like that.
Wait a second. Who finished above you?
Some of us are still there.
But who finished above you?
It was Anaheim. Dismiss.
Well, who else?
And Chris.
Chris.
Hey.
Chris Davidson.
Chris Davidson.
Dismiss. Hey guys, I beat Bronwen in the USB in the USBC. Yeah. You mean that Dismiss?
Yes, that's Dismiss. That's a great impression, by the way.
you.
That's the best impression of Dismiss Smith I have ever heard in my entire life.
Thank you. I've had
Sorry, Steven.
Yeah, I've had challengers. Nice try, Stephen Vicky. I like to call him Vicky.
Steve.
But no, after my first competition, I went back and I adjusted. Like, I learned a lot. I'm like, I'm dosing different every time. I didn't really understand that. I didn't really understand my espresso.
Uh-huh.
I went back and really tried to hone my skills in just being a lot more consistent with my grinding, my dosing, my tamping, milk steaming.
Okay. I mean, that was your first time.
Yeah,
then
that was my first time.
What about later? Do you feel like it's still...
Oh, yeah. I'm a lot more consistent now than I have ever been.
And that's a direct result of competing?
And that's a direct result of competing and working as a barista every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do well in competition if you don't get behind the bar every day.
Is Heinz a 5-star espresso experience?
We have a 5-group machine. Hell yeah, it's a 5-star espresso experience.
1 star per group.
1 star per group.
They're all rock stars.
I serve proper spoons with all of my espressos and cappuccinos.
Are they facing the right way and everything?
Yes, they are.
Good stuff. You pour water.
And we even serve water.
Or the water-free judges.
The water for...
Do you charge for the water?
No.
Oh, you guys are so generous.
You pour latte art in your water.
I pour latte art in my water.
Jay, what do you think? I mean, do you feel like it's relevant? You've competed twice.
And I did poorly each time.
Well.
But no, I don't know. There's Bronwen brings up a good point that there's a lot of positive returns on competing. But my thought is that we keep talking about the 4-star experience. And one of the most interesting things that I found in my travels is visiting what is arguably the best restaurant in America.
Uh-oh, here we go.
The French Laundry.
Uh-huh.
And it's true. You go to the French Laundry. It's considered by most people across the world to be the best restaurant in North America.
Wait, French Laundry, so they extra care for the armpits? Is that what they do?
Extra care. It's ancient Chinese secret. And,
so the French get it from the Chinese, eh?
That's right.
Hey, you know where it all started. But no, really, you go there and...
party on, Jay.
You tell them, party on, Nick. Party on, Thomas Keller. And what happens, you go there, you order this great meal from Thomas Keller. He makes this incredible 15-course deal. You've got all this flavors, and it's incredible. And you're like, oh, my God, the food is awesome. I feel like I'm going to have children.
And he's not even pregnant.
And I'm not pregnant, you know? But what do you get? And they say, oh, what would you like to have for your drinks? And I say, well, let me have an espresso. And what does the best 4-star restaurant in America do? They serve you illy pods.
Illy pods, baby.
So my thought is this, if the whole thing with the USB-C is the 4-star experience, what if I was the competitor next year? And maybe Cindy can tell us more about this. If I competed next year, and I said, I'm bringing you the authentic 4-star experience.
5-star.
5-star. No, they're actually 4.
Okay.
There's 4 stars in their
3 hemispheres, 4 stars. Okay.
Best restaurant in North America. I'm bringing you coffee at the level of the best. And it's illy pods. Well, I better damn well get high points for the 4-star experience.
It's the French laundry. French being the key word there.
Is there even a French barista in the WBC?
I think he was too busy drinking red wine.
France has never contributed to the WBC.
They're too busy doing their laundry. Come on with their illy pods.
So what would happen if I did that, Cindy? If I brought pods?
France does not.
We're talking about the experience that you should be having in a 5-star restaurant.
You know,
it hasn't been created because baristas aren't working in 5-star restaurants.
Here you go, Jay.
I beg to differ. Cafe Florian, Venice.
There's
very
actually,
lovely.
There's actually a
5-star.
I'm flipping through the Barista magazine. Where is this here? Look at this. Read this on page 16 of the Barista magazine. Hot coffee cuisine at top Chicago restaurants Blackbird and Avec, courtesy of Intelligentsia.
Go Ellie.
Yeah, Jay Cunningham told me that Ellie has trained those restaurants. They pour latte art at these restaurants. Hardcore. 5-star, baby.
5-star.
There is
Go
no 5-star.
Intelligentsia.
5-star.
See if Chicago can do
well,
it.
here's the question then. One of my biggest beefs is we talk about 5-star, 4-star for espresso at these competitions, and watching the people that have performed, I have to ask, do the judges even know what a 4-star experience is? Have they experienced the 4-star experience for themselves to know what it really is to be like?
So that's
no, seriously.
No, that's our next topic is judging.
The deferential treatment of a 4-star waiter is very different than what I see. What I see a lot at the competitions is kind of like Applebee's service. No, I'm serious. Hey, how you doing today? Nice to see you, judges.
Paper napkin.
My name is Jay, and I'm going to serve you some great drinks today. Blah 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 blah. Freaking blah. All I want you to do is come and serve me my freaking drinks. Don't talk too much. Tell me a little bit about it.
I love your flair, Jay.
But no, really.
You have some nice flair.
Oh, thanks. It's from the cameras.
That was cheap.
So what do you think? But that's what I wonder.
Well, I think it's the idea of the experience of something where there's a lot of care, a lot of precision put into what they're serving, and so in a way, if you're asking me if all the judges are very familiar with 5-star restaurants, I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I won't speak for everybody else. But I will say that I think it's the idea that you would actually pay a lot of attention to every detail and everything that you're serving, and there is that focus in 5-star restaurants because they have to get certified every year. They get surprise inspections, and everybody contributes to that level of service.
And just so everyone, we're going to get emails, 5-star, 4-star, whatever. We're talking about the best, right? So.
Well, you may get emails, but I'm definitely not going to be making it to the top 10 this year.
Remember, your latte.
After these comments, they're going to be like, you get one. You get half a point?
Well, and remember that when you're serving coffee and espresso in your shop, you're charging $2 to $3 for that drink, and it should be up to that standard.
Well, what does it say when you have a $2 or $3 cappuccino, right? And, okay, let's say the people that we know in the industry here, $3 cappuccino, are making cappuccinos at a higher standard and better quality than the $3 cappuccino at Bouchon in Napa Valley. So
did you call me again?
There you are again. No, but really, what does that say? We talk about all of this.
Don't buy coffee at Bouchon.
Be nice, Nick.
Don't buy coffee there.
But that's considered one of the top. That's
well,
the
then
top.
Well, then I would write to Thomas Keller. Have you written to Thomas Keller yet?
Yeah,
Jay?
exactly. I think that's you got beef with Keller. You got beef with all those guys. You know, it's
I don't
like
have beef. No. Let me, Thomas Keller. I have no beef with you. Please don't cut me off of your reservation. I've got a reservation coming up. You guys keep talking too much. I'm not going to
wait, you have a reservation already, or
I've got 6 over the next 2 years.
Oh my God.
Maybe he should make reservations for all of us so we can experience this together.
Well,
you know,
that's
we can
kind of
speak about it firsthand if we.
That's our plan with Bronwen here for San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well,
January.
Yeah.
Are you in?
I'm in.
Okay,
Are you buying?
we're getting no.
What restaurant is that?
You're the Western coordinator.
French Laundry again. All right, I'm not going anywhere near the French. Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you know, my thing about the competitions is, you know, 5-star espresso experience. Does it exist? Why should it exist? You know, if we're doing, it's competition. You know, in a way, as long as we could create a level playing field and rules that are fair for everyone, or try to be as fair for everyone as possible, then that's all that we can really do. Now, all the other alternate idea people, you know, there's always an idea guy. Everyone says I got the best idea for a competition. Here's what we do. We have a play-by-play guy outside who's going, oh, that was a bad pour. Oh, look at that latte art. What is that, a hard or a rosetta? This person can't make up their mind.
Have you heard me and Chris Tacey during competition?
Yeah,
it's pretty obnoxious.
I have heard you guys. I sat next to you guys during the USBC.
We're really obnoxious, Chris. You should not do that anymore.
But, you know, you also called it wrong.
Yeah, we call it wrong lots of times.
Yeah. But, that's a perfect example. I mean, we won't name names, but, you know, you guys, after the finals, I mean, I know because I talked to you, you guys had, you know, from the stands, you know, blank is the winner. You want to say?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You want to say who?
Blank? Well, we thought Billy Wilson would win. He had a really flawless performance. It was great, but we didn't taste the drinks.
Right, exactly.
You don't taste the drinks when you're commenting.
Exactly my
You're
point.
like 50 feet away.
Right. You know, and I think that before people spend too much energy complaining about how things are scored, get to know the score sheets. You know, I'm always surprised by how little people actually know about the score sheets. When we ask random competitors, for instance, how many points are the total number of points possible in competition? Do you know?
1,200.
1,200. Did you know?
Yes.
Okay. I know you did.
Sometimes the judges don't even know.
Well, some of the judges don't know.
Bad.
The coordinator knows.
I know the
I
hemisphere.
know.
Cindy knows.
Well, because Cindy's organized.
That's because Cindy made the rules up, probably.
You know, it's interesting that we're talking about that in 2005, about that people that make commentary don't really know what the drink tastes like. And that's still something that in the competitions we battle with even today in 2023, is that, you know, people will watch and they'll say, oh, that person should have won and blah, blah, and all this stuff. But really, even I as a head judge don't really know what it tastes like, because the judges themselves are the ones that really taste the drink. So only they know, and only they are really the ones scoring. So that criticism still continues today. And earlier part, listening to this discussion about what we're talking about, and I kind of smile a little bit, because I've come to the realization now that I'm 20 years in the business, and we're 15 plus years removed from this actual event. We really were young in the business, and when you're young in any industry, young in any kind of pursuit, you tend to talk about things that you don't really know what you're talking about, and that's what I think about now.
So, 1,200 points, out of those, how many are actually about the service and all these different things? You have to know the score sheets,
But here's a problem, to me, my contention is that it's one thing to know the score sheets, and we talk about learning the rules, but the rules really aren't very clear. They're not really written down.
All right, let's talk about judging.
The rules can be broken.
Let's talk about judging. What are you talking about?
The rules aren't really written. For example, let's take the whole thing with the water for the judges.
Yes.
Right? You want to have
latte art.
You want to have 4 waters for the judges. But there's no written rule about that. There's nothing on the score sheet to say anything about that. But I guarantee you, if you don't put out the water, you're going to get hit on points.
Sure.
It
so
says
what's
water on the score sheet.
It says water.
It does?
It does say water.
Yes,
Know
it does
your
say water.
score sheet.
It's probably proper service at a
It wasn't there last year, was
I believe
it?
it's
Yes, it
under
was.
the attention
Was it there last
to
year?
details category.
Like I hear Ryan, reigning Southeast Regional Barista Champion. By
Well,
the way,
that's why
Ryan
Ryan is
Jensen.
that's why Ryan's the champion,
Has
and
this-
I'm just the guy that
He
was
has the score
watching.
sheets right there in his pocket, and let's look.
Let's see here.
Turn the page.
Mr. Barger, please.
I'm trying to help you. I know you can't read very well.
What does it say, Jay?
It says,
He's looking at the sensory score sheet.
where is it?
All accessories provided. Served with accessories, something like that, right?
Yeah. Served with accessories: spoons, sugar, water, etc.
It's ta-da.
But
And it
water is
even
not
says
in-
water.
Yeah, it says water specifically.
And it also says in the little handbook, the rules thing, right?
Yeah.
There's an evaluation manual for the score sheets,
Right.
and it will actually describe each line item. in
It says
detail.
water in that?
And it does say water in that.
Well, then, you know what? I guess I have to eat
Did
my
you
microphone
read
now.
your score sheets, Jay?
There's a
Did
reason
you
why.
read your rules and regulations?
There's a reason why I've been left out of the finals for the last 2 years.
You know,
I have to say, Jay was like, he was trying to tell me that I should compete, and I finally realized that was so that he would not come in last.
It's true. It's true.
well, I mean,
I need to do this year.
You know, I'll say right now, we're talking about unwritten rules. I know there are people jumping up and down again saying, but, in the espresso bar, like, you don't serve people water. What the hell? As far as my opinion, and I
Bronwen
don't...
does.
Huh?
I do.
She does.
Well, Bronwen does. But, I'm not going to speak for the whole, competition people, organizers, whatever. But what I will say for myself is, that's the way the game is played. This is the way the rules are made. If you don't like it, then don't compete. But, here's the rules. It's fair for everybody, But that's where I wanted to talk about the judging a little bit, because that is someplace where, I think it's safe to say there needs to be some improvement, but, I think it's been pretty good. Bronwen judged at the USBC, this past year in Seattle, so did I. There was definitely room for improvement, and we'll say, we'll talk within the bounds of things that we can say without pissing too many people off. But there's room for growth. But overall, I would say I was actually pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man,
when
it was this year's competition. USBC was much harder than Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
Much harder as a competitor.
Well, Intelli wasn't in Atlanta, so. Bum, bum, bum.
Well, also, I think a lot of judges haven't worked behind the bar, don't really understand what it means to be a barista.
I should make a comment. So what Nick was referring to is that, so this is 2005, and every April during the Specialty Coffee Association's trade show is when they have the United States Barista Championship. 2004 was the first time myself and Nick were able to compete. Well, we were both new to the industry in 2003, 2002. So 2004, we decided to try to compete. And so I got a position, and Nick got a position. A whole bunch of other people got a position. But other competitors, like those from Intelligentsia, who ended up being our friends as well over the years, did not get a position in 2004 when we were in Atlanta. And they were, they came down, like Ellie and Amber, who worked for them at the time, came down to Atlanta because they were just trying to hope that maybe someone would drop out and they could slide into a position. That was a little bit of a funny thing. And I forgot that this really was the second year that we had competed. So we were really, really green in the industry at this time.
That until judges realize that, or until past competitors who are tired of competing decide to go through judges certification, is it going to improve? I mean, judging is a lot of fun, and it's also a very educational experience.
So let's just, real quick, for those, most people don't know about the judges certification, and I don't think there's any secret there. So there's a written test.
A sensory skills
There's
test.
a sensory skills test that we can talk about. And then there's a time where the judge coordinators or whoever for that particular event do some mock competitions, and just espresso and cappuccino, and the different potential judges will judge that competitor and write down score sheets and then confer, much like the calibration time during the actual competition. And so the judges coordinators will then use that opportunity to kind of evaluate the judges, see how they do. There was some calibrations of sorts that went on at the WBC certification, for instance. I was asked to raise my scores for sensory by 1 point. Just because that's what calibration is in a sense, or one definition of it. I don't even know. I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, so you go through those different steps. So my first question, and I can ask, Cindy's been a judge, and Bronwen, you think that's enough? Is that good?
With a more experienced judge, yes. I think it's just because you go through judge's certification doesn't mean that you're going to fully understand what judging is about. Judges need to be able, especially sensory judges, really understand various espressos and the way that they taste and the way that they pour. So if you are planning on judging or becoming a judge, taste different espressos.
Yeah.
Right,
You know?
I agree. And that part that you described in length is actually, we call it the practical test.
Right.
And I think that during that practical test, actually testing out using different baristas to be part of that program and different coffees is really important, so that judges really get to see the differences.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And as a judge, regardless of whether or not you've judged before, get behind the bar once in a while.
Yeah.
John Sanders even does that.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
Even though you are slow, boss, but it's okay.
I've seen impulse and stuff, but I want to add that that I do think it needs improvement, and there are lots of there's lots of feedback, and people have lots of ideas for improvement. But it only improves when we have a bigger community of people talking about it and actually working on it and finding out where we need the improvement. So I think it's improving because people are looking at it, and we're, as we go each year, more ideas come up and better definitions come out of it.
I mean, I think that if there's one real criticism that comes to mind right away, and this is, I don't know how I feel about this, but it's that when there's an issue of sorts, there seems to be, talk about, Jay, you're talking about unwritten rules. A lot of the competitors talk about there are a lot of unwritten rules in competition, and you don't really know what's really going on. I think with the judging, I would like to see more clear-cut guidelines and rules and so on and so forth as far as who's a judge, what gets you in, what doesn't get you in. Like, for instance, I
want to stop there for a moment, because he said, there's I was in a position where I was critical of the competitions, and I wonder, now thinking about it, since I've been a judge for so many years now, how much of that is really just my own ignorance in the rules and understanding. Now, we are much more advanced today in 2023 than we were back in 2005, as far as the rules, the score sheet. Back then, there was, now things are much more clarified and much more precise in the scoring and the different categories. The organization has spent these last, 15, 18 years really working on making it better and more focused. But, I wonder how much then, I'm pontificating about things like the water, but obviously I didn't realize that the water's already listed on the score sheet. So, and this is something as a judge I run into with competitors nowadays, where the competitors don't know the rules well enough. The rules are printed. The score sheets are printed. They can have them at any moment. Really, if you're a competitor, you should know these things so that you can take advantage of those things. All right, that's just it.
What did you call that again? That hands-on time?
Practical.
The practical evaluation time. That's as subjective as anything. That's more. You think signature drinks are subjective or espresso. That's just such a subjective thing. What qualifies you to be a judge? And for that matter, for a lot of stuff, these are volunteer organizations we're talking about, and I think that for that reason, it would behoove the committees, if anyone's listening, to really take a little bit a harder line as when it comes to making certain determinations. I think that in a way, it's like everyone's a volunteer. No one's the ultimate authority on any particular thing, and so people kind of will disagree and they'll just kind of look at each other, and then it'll just kind of pass. It'll pass and it'll just slip through. And so when it comes to judging and things like that, I think that's on the judges' side. I think that could really make a big difference. But competitors, if you have a hankering for to really get to know the competition, feel free to judge. I think you'll find that that you knew more than you thought. Right? Wouldn't you say, Bronwen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that a lot of times people think that, I thought maybe crossing over that line into judging. I competed in Atlanta last year. We talked about it before. It was painful, Jay. Jay beat me in Atlanta.
Did I?
Yeah, you beat me by a little bit.
The first person I've beaten. CG? I did beat someone.
Yeah. But so this year, doing some judging, in a way, it's like you pull the curtain back and you take a step through, and you expect everyone to be eating champagne and caviar behind the curtain, and sitting there laughing and making fun of all the competitors. And that's not the way it is. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever done.
It's really hard, and I think the hardest thing judging for me is just really being objective for one, and also just getting used to the pace of judging. It goes fast.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, it's over already, especially if you're technical. But sensory, you just have to go with that. You don't know. It's a very subjective thing.
Yeah.
But you try to be as objective as possible. Like, what is a balanced espresso?
Well, that's what's important about the practical time. Is it's not so much about the calibration, but also that people can go through it because it's a very speedy process. You know, in the same sense that the barista only has 15 minutes to make all these drinks. The judges can't blink. They can't look down to write their notes and make their scores. They have to watch everything the barista does.
Yeah, and trying to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say that judging a 15 minutes, as far as mentally and physically, it's about the same as competing 15 minutes. Wouldn't you say, Bronwen?
It's stressful. You're like, oh my God, I have to choose a champion from these people.
And I would say, of course, there's going to be exceptions, but very few. And most of the judges take it very seriously. I mean, I know for a lot of us at the USBC, for instance, and I think there were a lot of folks there observing. We'd go behind the curtain, with our clipboards, all trying to be all professional and stone-faced and stuff. We'd go back there and we'd fall on the floor. Literally, I was on the floor at least 3 times.
That's true. I did see you, Nick.
Yeah, technical judges, they don't get any water either.
Yeah.
You mean you're falling on the floor laughing?
No, it's
dying.
Oh, okay.
It's exhausting. You drink a lot of caffeine. I've thrown up drinking way too much caffeine.
Well, it wasn't just caffeine, was it?
No, it was caffeine.
Okay.
No food and lots of caffeine.
Caffeine
Not
and
a good mix.
And the tilt-a-whirl at Wally World or whatever. Anyway, well, I think one of the things that I'm gonna pledge to do on a future podcast, or maybe even more than one, is really talk hardcore about certain things that that I think every competitor should know. It's kind of an expose, behind the scenes for those who want to compete. As far as some of those little things, little tips here and there, just kind of throw those out there. I don't think that anyone will really have too much of a problem with it. What I want to see, and I think everyone wants to see, is the level of competition, going up every year. They changed the scoring this year, and let's just say that they don't change it this coming year. It would be a damn shame if we don't see the scores go up by at least 50 points, on the score sheets, to see people continue to grow. And, and as far as for our United States Barista Championship folks, we want to see a WBC champion come out of our ranks, right?
I want to see a girl be a WBC champion.
Well, I want to see a boy be a USBC champion.
I want to see me be a USBC champion. I don't know about you. I want to have the BMW.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know is is there an average score for competitors in the USBC?
I think Bronwen and I were discussing this earlier. I think
what do you mean average score?
Yeah, you were talking about you want to see the scores come up. So is there an average?
Well, I would say not so much average overall, because we had some very low scores.
Yeah, there are big spreads. There are really big spreads. But, I mean, out of the 1,200 points, people feel like they did terrible if they see, 600 or 700. And that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
I think that, maybe 80-90% of the scores I see are usually in that range, 600 to 700.
Oh, so my 425 wasn't part of the average?
No. You didn't get was it 425?
No. Well, that's just adding a couple hundred.
No, I mean, we're seeing 700s, right? Even at the WBC, 700s.
Yeah.
And so my thing is that if you want to complain and say, let's change the competition, let's see people actually master the competition first. And it will happen. It will happen.
I don't know if it's ever really happened. I think there's definitely been improvement in both the judging and the competitor levels, but it's still a situation where even the champions, you look at you see them perform and you watch the videos and you hear that they're the champion. So you're expecting that on a score range from 0 to 6, with 6 being extraordinary, you're expecting their scores must be 5s and 6s. Most of the time, even the champions don't get that high. Typically, you'll see scores in the United States Barista Championship where perhaps their espresso scores are in 3.5s to 4s, maybe the occasional 5, but really nothing normally higher than that, but mostly around 3.5 to 4. So really you're still in the 75% range of the available scores.
Stake my reputation or whatever, that's worth nothing. But nonetheless, within the next 3 or 4 years, we will see someone score, assuming they don't change the score sheets, someone score over 1,000. I think it can happen. I think it should happen, and the whole community should work.
Flames. Yeah. Huh? You can score 1,000 if you just make your specialty drink interesting. I think we need more fires.
More
fires in competition.
Uh-oh.
We almost had a fire last year.
We did?
Well, in our regional.
Yeah.
Southeast, we almost had a fire.
There was rum. There was
I don't think
everywhere.
It was.
See, that's a violation of vanilla alcohol.
Let me tell you.
It wasn't in the drink.
This is a great story, and I don't think that it would hurt anyone's feelings to share. One of the competitors at the Southeast Regional Barista competition. I guess was it January this year?
It was last January.
Yeah, it was this past January. So I'm going to the bathroom. I was helping MC, and I go to the bathroom. That's the end. That's the whole story. No. So I go in there, and John Sanders is in there, and he was head judge and judge coordinator for that regional.
You two were in the bathroom together?
Yeah. During a special moment.
Drinking rum.
Oh. Yeah. We were playing George Michael records. In the restroom, in the rest area. No, so he's going in, going out, flushing his thing and doing whatever, and he goes, the next competitor. It says the next competitor's got.
I hear the story.
He goes, the next competitor's
Sanders taking a tinkle. That's just kind of scary.
It wasn't a tinkle.
Oh.
It was like it was just a single plop, solitary plop. Bronwen fell out of her chair. So Sanders goes, the next competitor's got a bottle of 151 on his table. Can't wait to see what's happening. Like, this is going to be interesting. Because as, folks know, like, in theory at least, there are people who don't know the rules and could go ahead and try to put alcohol in their drink. And if and when that happens, all hell's going to break loose. And I don't know what
hell's going to break loose.
I don't know. Have you been head judge before? What would happen?
What would happen is the head judge would
stop?
Quietly tell everybody not to drink those drinks.
Okay.
And they'd have to get zeros.
If it was Sanders, no one drink this, I'll drink it. No, but anyway.
Hey, bud, what are you doing over there?
So this young man, he was a great competitor, did a great job, and so he gets up there, and so his signature drink is starting, and this is a packed room. It's like all eyes are on this kid because word has spread. This guy's got alcohol. Wait till you see. It's like finding out that the brakes have failed on a NASCAR car. Like, can't wait to see this train wreck kind of thing. And so everyone's waiting. He's doing his signature drink. There's the bottle right in the middle of his little setup, and he's doing all his pours and stuff. And he hasn't touched the bottle. Everyone's waiting for him to pick the bottle up, and for Sanders to blow the whistle or something. Picks the bottle up. And
Sanders comes flying over the audience and grabs the kid, right?
No. He goes, and he dives and puts his mouth underneath the bottle before he can pour into. No, so the kid pours the rum or whatever it is into this carafe of water, and then takes a lighter and lights it on fire. So the whole
scorpion bowl.
It's like a scorpion bowl.
Right. So it was kind of the centerpiece for his signature drink, and it was interesting. And so all eyes are on this guy, and everyone's going, oh, and just as they're going, oh, he turns around and drops the tray all over the floor.
He had lit it on the station, like on his setup table. He hadn't put it on the judge's table.
Yeah.
So he's very carefully there.
Key to competitors, don't carry fire.
It was lit. Yeah, it was lit at the time.
It was lit.
Nice.
There was a lot of.
Remember to put it on the table first.
Yeah.
The roof is on fire.
No, Jay, the tray was on fire.
But anyway,
So we have a new venue this year.
So
thank you, competitor rum guy.
Competitor rum guy. So
wait, here's a question then: if you you take this rum and you burn it, and it leaves rum flavor. You can't do that?
No.
That's illegal?
No ingredients
no
at
boiling
all.
it down, no extracts.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because it has alcohol.
But if you burned it out, there's no alcohol left. It's just a flavor.
There's always a trace amount of alcohol.
What if it wasn't alcohol, but like some sort of hallucinogenic mushroom?
I've often thought we've never taken a poll to ask the judges, do you have any allergies? Do you want to put down any foods you're allergic to? Because the signature drinks are now getting so creative. I remember the story about the kangaroo meat that the vegan consumed.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Paul Bassett.
Yeah. Well, I actually I'm an allergy to strawberries, and when I saw a competitor.
Strawberries.
Yeah, I saw a competitor at SouthEast making a beverage of strawberries, and I was like, I'm not
have an allergy to strawberries. You just have a fear of strawberries.
That's because the last time I ate strawberries, I broke out in hives, and I looked like a little spotty man.
They're like marching to crush you or something.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We're getting off topic here again.
I asked John Sanders, and John Sanders, who was the head judge that time, he said, yeah, what will happen is you won't. He said, just don't drink the drink.
Yeah.
He said, just push it aside.
Don't put your life in danger just because.
Exactly.
John Sanders is a great head judge.
Yes, he is.
I'll go on record and say that.
He's one of the scariest men alive.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is it's the job of the head judge.
That's true.
I mean, this goes back in a way to what I said before, and for anyone who judges, gets to be a head judge, please heed this. Lay the smack down. If you need to change scores, I don't know if you can change scores, but you can demand someone to. I don't know.
Yeah, you can.
But anyway, the calibration really needs to happen. It's not a formality. Let's make sure that happens. And so like I said before, on a future podcast and or series of, really want to do kind of an expose on a competition. A gentleman just walked in the room, Mr. Jeff Vojta from Stockton Graham and Company. How you doing, Jeff?
Pretty good, thank you.
Jeff is not only I guess he's the president, right?
Stockton Graham.
Of Stockton Graham Company, and he's also an SEAA board member. And an overall great guy.
And our host for the SouthEast Jam.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It was a great jam.
Party on, Jeff.
Appreciate it. We had a great time, and I'm doing all my official host duty.
Jeff is older than
welcome
us.
And thank everybody for coming out and stuff. So I mean, we had a great crowd, and I think everybody enjoyed themselves.
Well, tell us the inspiration. Like you guys wanted to do this thing, and tell us about why.
We had. I mean, when I started our coffee shop, 11, 12 years ago now. The SEA and going to the training that I had at a conference in San Francisco, and the emphasis on quality, the openness that everybody shared with me that had been in the industry before, had really helped us distinguish our business, really helped us get started and get our foot in the door. And I really credit them in that training with being on target and being in business. Without it, I don't think we would have made it 2 years, much less 10, 11.
Sure.
So it's kind of doing that, and then I say our customers on the wholesale side with stuff, and when they get excited and in training, and really the barista is key to the whole kind of customer service, consumer delivery, and communication thing.
Sure.
And I really found I could tell the retailer, but then it would die there. They would never train the staff, the barista, and stuff in the store. So we're like, well, can we do things? Can we excite them? Can we motivate them? Get excited, get the customers excited. So in experimenting and testing with eager customers, we saw the results and the sales and said, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
More people, more things. So in kind of doing that, and we asked our customers what's needed. Being on the membership service committee with the board, what's lacking? I mean, I hear a lot of complaints all the time. And a lot of sometimes mean emails and letters and stuff. So we're working on this. So a lot of it we want to do, and I know that having been a retailer for a number of years, it's very hard to get out. Send your staff is expensive. You got God knows how much travel time and paying people to work.
Right.
So we wanted to try to do things regionally to make it as inexpensive as possible, to show a great time, and start showing what you can do with training to motivate them to do more.
Yeah. So here we are. It's been great.
Absolutely awesome.
Jeff brought Bronwen out here to help inspire these folks,
and we're thrilled to death to have her, and fantastic. I'm so glad she made the trip out here. So
good stuff. Another round of applause for Jeff. And
all right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks everybody and all our great volunteers.
And I think I'll speak on behalf of Jeff and Cindy and all the others here in the Southeast that we joke sometimes about a Pacific Northwest kind of how that's the mecca of coffee, but people are doing some damage out here on the East Coast.
They do.
And so Bronwen's seen that firsthand. Some damage.
This is a bigger turnout than anything on the Pacific Northwest.
The Southeast Regional Barista Competition was bigger than the U.S., right? Or bigger than the previous U.S., for sure.
Yeah, not this last one in Seattle.
Yeah.
Our Southeast Regional was bigger than the Atlanta.
It was the biggest yet, of any competition.
Yep.
As far as the number of competitors, and this Barista Jam, that Stockton Graham has put on has been the biggest Barista Jam anywhere yet, and so big things happening out here in the hot, steamy Southeast.
Yeah, I wish this many baristas came over to the Northwest.
Yeah, they're all afraid of.
They're afraid of the Bronwen.
No, they're just all on Capitol Hill doing their thing, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be a great regional coming up this September in the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, something. Chapel Hill. Anyway.
And school will be back in session.
School will be in session. We will be on campus. Jay was ready. He's like, we're going to go co-ed.
The college girl.
It'll still be warm, so there may be bikinis laying out on the quad.
Okay, it's a family show, ladies and gentlemen.
G and I are going to go look for.
It's a family show.
Look for that.
I can promise you no snowstorms. I think it's safe to promise no snowstorms this September.
But possibly a hurricane. Not yet.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, I got the snow.
That's all right.
We're coming up on an hour now, so I want to go ahead and skip down to the last topic on our list. That I think it's a good one. Shout out to our friends over in Canada.
Canada.
Mark Prince putting on the CoffeeGeek.com podcast.
Hey, speaking of Canada, did you notice? I don't know if you noticed, but I have friends that live in Alberta, right?
Okay.
Edmonton, Calgary. And while a lot of Canadians go, the people in Alberta are actually, they're different. It's true. I think it's true. They're like, hey. There's a before the A.
Well, you know who's from there? It's Fat Albert. Fat Albert's from here.
That makes so much sense.
Makes all sense, right? That was bad. I'm sorry.
Fat Albert was one of my heroes.
Speaking of Canadians, can we give a shout out to Sammy Piccolo?
Oh,
yeah, Sammy Piccolo.
Canadian. Thank you. Go, Sammy.
Awesome, Sammy.
Salvatore Piccolo. 3-time. He's the.
So if you remember from the last episode where we were listening, we actually talked to Sammy Piccolo on a phone call with Phong Tran, and they were both in Canada during the Canadian Barista Championship. We spoke to Sammy because he was competing, but we spoke to him before the competition, and now we know in the 2 weeks that have passed, or the week that's passed since that last episode, in that airtime, he won, and we found out.
Only Canadian Barista champion ever, right?
For a three-peat.
Yeah.
That's right. 3 years in a row.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see him in Bern.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He wants
to times the charm, maybe. It was 3 times the charm for Tim and for Trolls, actually.
That's true. That's very true. So we'll see. Though the one thing that Sammy hasn't done, which he could have done this year, is that Tim and Trolls both judged before they won.
That's true. Yeah, so. Sammy, what's up with that? You should have judged first. You didn't take the year off.
Well, we'll see.
Then come back and compete.
We'll see if it's a correlation or not.
And it's his birthday next weekend, so give him lots of credit.
Oh, we gotta also give him another congratulations. They have a baby on the way in December. Mr. Sammy does.
Oh, God, and the Piccolos.
Yeah, the Piccolos are procreating.
Yeah, to Andrea.
You haven't seen Andrea?
I don't think I've met Andrea.
Lovely young lady.
They were really excited because they said, oh, well, the baby will be 6 months by the time we have to go to the WBC. So I think that's good timing. We'll be able to leave the baby.
Nice.
What
Priorities.
do you mean?
Priorities, folks. That's the priorities in the right place. Passion for coffee before procreation. Anyway, CoffeeGeek.com podcast.
Well, that's just the wrong thing.
CoffeeGeek.com podcast. Mark Prince put it on. You heard it, Jay. You haven't heard it yet, right?
No, I haven't.
She will. Well, she hasn't even heard the Portafilter.
Well, she's been away. You've been away for a long time.
I've been busy.
You've been traveling. Yeah.
She's been on the road.
But anyway, so Jay, any feedback? Any thoughts on the Coffee Geek podcast?
Oh, I thought it was great, man.
Yeah?
Awesome. It's nice to hear that there's more happening in the world of coffee.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear also Vince and Sammy discussing the Here's something I don't understand. Okay? And I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but
when Jay says the word "hears," it's like, oh shit.
You know, everything. I noticed that in Vancouver they have such an interesting accent. You know, latte art.
I know. I find myself when they're talking, I'm just like, how in the world are they doing that?
You have to say BC.
Doing what?
You can't just say Vancouver. It's Vancouver, BC.
Oh, BC?
BC.
Oh.
There is a Vancouver, Washington.
BC.
Oh, right.
There's Fung's Vancouver, and then there's Vancouver.
They get sensitive about that. I'm afraid if I go there, I got to follow that to BC because I'm afraid if next time I go there, they might beat me with the red maple leaf. And I didn't quite enjoy that.
Just stick John Sanders on you, and that'll be okay.
You know, I've been doing my Dismas impression for a while. I gotta start working on a Sammy impression. I'm working on it. You know, it's like I'm gonna pour some latte art there, my friend.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'll whip it out. Okay. I'll do a whole thing.
A little more high pitch though.
Yeah, a little. Ooh, okay. Anyway,
no, it was good. I thought the podcast was very good. It was what, hour and 48?
Something like that.
Man, you know what? Here's the thing. I listened to that podcast. I listened to the Giuliano podcast with you, and I made it almost all the way here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fueled by podcast.
That's a lot of talking.
That's like 4 hours of talk.
Sheesh, Mark, what do you do? How can one man have so much to say?
Well,
I want to know when you got the whole like hip hop scratches. And how come we don't have that?
All the
that's my question.
It's good.
Well, he's all down. He's down with the barista.
Down with the barista.
Cutting it and scratching it.
Working on all the techno stuff. We'll whip out some new music. Thinking about changing. You know, they haven't really set too many rules yet as far as how to, the rules about putting music, like copyrighted music on podcasts and stuff like that. So maybe we'll bust some Kings of Convenience, to close out this show or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, I thought it was great. The nice thing about
that's something that has changed dramatically since this time.
The thing about this community is that it's very small, but yet it's very big and wide, and so are you, and so am I. and so's Mark.
Yeah, but I'm wider than all of you.
But we Mark's site and his podcast for that matter are definitely a little bit more general interest, more kind of consumer based.
They're more serious.
It makes Coffee Geek more exciting. That was my comment. Like I'm glad Mark started this because it makes Coffee Geek a lot more exciting.
Well, everyone gets to hear him now.
I hear Mark Prince enough. I get weekly phone calls.
Well, you do. You do.
Hey, Bronwen, how are you?
I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
That was Jay. Keep going.
That's all I know.
That's all.
Mark doesn't.
By the way, Mark, your Illy cups are in Canada. You just need to make that phone call.
Okay. Well, a little bit more. They talked about a KitchenAid grinder. It was pretty cool. Like they talked about it.
You can hear them grinding.
Yeah. I love how they're like, he turns it on. It's like, and he's like, listen to how quiet it is. But it's okay.
I nearly drove off the road at that point. I was like, holy crap!
But got a flat tire. Mark's working on his mix master skills, but it's all good. And
mix master print.
Can we do that with brewing equipment?
What?
That wouldn't be bad.
What's that?
Mixing the grinder with the steam one.
Kind of like the Zoka video was trying to do.
I didn't cut it. That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. You were in it.
What Zoka video? I have no clue what you're talking about.
Actually, it's
not kidding.
That was kind of how I knew all of you guys. It's kind of like, hey, that's that girl from the video. I feel like I'm around celebrities now.
Watch it, Jay.
Somebody said that to me today.
That's the way Jay does everything.
You do look like that girl in the video. Asia, what's her name?
She's Asian, yeah. That's why she's so familiar.
She looks like that girl, Asia Durham. Yeah.
Well, anyway, good stuff there. But I did want to talk about Coffee Geek a little bit because, what I will say, first of all, I don't want to say complaints, but feedback. I know that for a while, and one of the reasons that we started the whole Portafilter.net thing was because, Barista Guild, SCAA board aside, now that's kind of an association, kind of a group thing. As far as a place that's a little bit, a little bit more focused, there really wasn't anything that was geared specifically not only for professionals, but professional, coffee people who are really interested in the kind of discussing some hardcore stuff. G over here has been posting to Portafilter a little bit. We have a good team of bloggers, some more active than others.
Bronwen.
Hey, I'm gonna post something up after I get back with you. I've been busy.
I know she's been busy.
Sheesh, Nick. Now I'm never gonna listen to your podcast anymore. Never mind.
Just
if I ever post on Portafilter.net again.
Yeah. I know. I'm not busy, thank God. Just have two shops and a kid. And
remember, I have 2 jobs.
Do you have 2 jobs still?
Yes, I still have 2 jobs.
Anyway, well, but the thing that you talked about on the first podcast, that didn't happen. You said
that didn't happen. John Sanders brought down his wrath of Sanders. No, I'm kidding. No, I just wouldn't have time. Is essentially
what were you thinking about there, Serna?
You think you're gonna have time to have 2 jobs? You're gonna be driving back and forth to Canada. You're gonna run green beans over the border.
Green beans?
Is that what they're calling it these days? Green beans?
Anyway.
No, we're moving our roaster to Vancouver.
Roasting in Vancouver.
Roaster in Vancouver.
You guys going head to head with Artigiano with
the latte art.
Latte.
They were pissed last time because we kept doing the A. You kept doing the A thing.
They weren't pissed about that.
Yeah, they were like, dude, no one, like...
No wonder I got that black maple leaf in the mail. Holy crap.
They were like...
I don't know what that meant.
You know, Mark called me up. He's like, Nick, no one in West Iraqi says A. You know, it was really annoying how everyone's like doing the whole A thing, but no one says that.
I've heard A.
You know, but what they
I
do...
go there a lot.
They're just in denial.
Well, what they do out there...
We're Americans, and we'll tell them exactly how they speak,
It's
Devin.
Sanders. Sanders goes A. It's very emphasized.
No, he goes A.
The other things, but he also says Bud. Come on.
Bud?
You know, but one thing that we're... You know, what... Jay, one thing that we are missing from our podcast is that they were drinking some kind of pear schnapps or some sort of like liqueur.
Ooh, they're getting all fancy.
Yeah, they were getting all alcoholic.
I was gonna say you guys are gonna start getting liquored up and doing podcasts.
Well, that's the MO out there in Canada. There with the latte art. Yeah, it was a pear brandy. It's a very expensive one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very nice. Mark said it was good, and so maybe we'll have to imbibe somehow.
We should be eating.
We'll make like some of those shock jock shows. We'll have the drunk.
I'm hungry.
We'll have the drunk show.
The drunk
Bronwen.
What?
You're what?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry.
I'm hungry.
She went. That's when she left out and went around the corner behind the factory and came back
and I gave
hey, bud.
in a haze. Anyway,
how's it going, bud?
So we were talking. We're getting back to the topic again. You know, we're coming up on 1:10. Coffee Geek. You know, so it's a consumer site, right? You know, and that's what it's been. And one of the things that I did kind of want to close out with for this podcast was talking a little bit about Coffee Geek and its role in the professional environment. And as well as, you know, Mark Prince's personal role in the coffee community, which I think has been a very interesting kind of evolution. You know, my whole thing, and I talked to Mark about this. I hope you don't mind us talking about it here, Mark. But, you know, my whole thing with Mark Prince and CoffeeGeek.com is I don't think that most coffee professionals, I think that if there's any issue that they have with Coffee Geek, it's the fact that they don't understand Coffee Geek. They don't understand Mark Prince. Because, frankly, he's a one-of-a-kind kind of guy. You know, there's only one Mark Prince. He's sort of the coffee press in a way. In a sense, he's almost like the only coffee press right now. You know, well, aside from our Barista magazine now. But you know.
What about those other publications?
Tell us about the other publications. Like which ones?
You know, Fresh Cup and Especially Coffee Retailer and all these other
Tea
ones.
and Coffee, all those guys. I think, you know, with all due respect, they're trade magazines. You know, I don't know if I would really call them the press as far as, you know.
Well, Nation's Restaurant News is also a trade journal, but that's press.
Do they
investigative journalism, hard weekly news. Yeah, man,
well,
I read that weekly.
And I think
I pay $52 a year for that thing.
I think in a way that's actually somewhat of a statement about the coffee industry right now.
Statement or indictment?
Indictment, or either or. I think that, you know.
You said indictment, not me.
I said it. I think that as big as this industry is, and as small as it is, you know, that we're missing major components to our industry that could really enrich it a lot more. And I think we'll hopefully, my hope for Coffee Geek is that we'll see that continue to develop into something a little more comprehensive. You know, I know, you know, we've started doing for the Barista Guild. You know, Mark Prince has so graciously given us some space to put articles. And so far, I've written both of them, but we're going to have other writers as well. Who are going to be doing things that are going to go on the front page of Coffee Geek. Coffee Geek really is the number one, coffee resource of any kind anywhere.
Right.
There are guys from China posting to Coffee Geek. Jesus Christ.
I refer my customers to it all the time. They have questions about home machines. I'm like, go to coffeegeeks.com.
Right.
But even today in the modern world, I think Coffee Geek is still filling that role for a lot of consumers. Now, of course, nowadays we've got Reddit, so there's subreddits on Reddit about where people talk coffee. And but coffee, well, actually, maybe Coffee Geek's changed because Coffee Geek used to have very active forums, and I don't think they do the forums anymore. I think it's mainly just information and news about coffee mostly focused on consumers. And then they also used to do a podcast, like we talked about earlier tonight. They had a podcast, and evidently he only did 46 episodes, with the last one being in 2006, which is a shame. If it could have, I think if he had kept it going, it could have been a really nice resource for people to use. But today, one of my criticisms over the years is that coffee media, and there's still quite a lot of outlets. A lot of that's been filled by Sprudge, which is another web-based. But most of the coffee media tends to be not very critical. And I think that we need more critical thinking and critical journalism within the industry. Like, there's really no critical articles. There's no real investigative journalism. It's all fluffy nonsense that just makes people happy. And I really don't care. So I don't really read much of the content that's out there because it's all kind of the same. And that's how I felt then, back in 2005. I still feel the same way today.
It's a great resource when I can't explain thoroughly, because I just don't have, I have a minute to spend with them, like, oh, there's a great resource. Go to coffeegeek.com. They have detailed reviews.
And they can get very thorough.
And they can get very thorough.
Well, let me ask you,
That's
though,
what they want.
how do you feel about this as a professional, how Coffee Geek relates? And we talked about the same thing to the Barista Championships, but
I like looking at, well, for me personally, I find more in the forums just because...
The Coffee Geek forums?
Yeah, the Coffee Geek forums, because I like to see what's going on in all the regions and find out what people are talking about and if I can contribute something.
Right.
That's what I do. I learn what consumers and home users are looking for, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I do find some of the skill articles really useful. Since I teach as well, I try to incorporate some of those articles and some tidbits from that into my curriculum.
Sure.
Kind of nice.
You know what I noticed with Coffee Geek is that there's a lot of, especially on the forums, there's a lot of people out there that are asking, well, what's wrong with my temp? What's wrong with my puck? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with my steaming? And I think that I never write this, but I think that what I'd like to tell people is that...
You hold back something? I can't believe it.
Well, I've been holding back from writing for the last couple of weeks, but what I think a lot of these consumers should try doing is, taking a week or two and spending extra money. Go out and buy 5-10 pounds of the coffee. Go out and buy 4 or 5 gallons of milk. And just pound through it. Because, one thing that separates the professional from barista from the consumer...
Most consumers.
Is that we're really doing this on a daily basis. We're pumping out gallons of milk at a time.
It's a completely different environment. I think what a lot of home users fail to realize is that your machine at home is never going to perform like my machine in the shop, because your machine has one group, mine has 5, or 2 or 3.
Well,
it's going to be a completely different dynamic, and I'm doing this repeatedly.
I think a porn star said that same thing to me once, I think.
Well, I think we should comment one thing. Like, if you could see over here on my shoulder, there's a little espresso machine back here. It's a La Valentina heat exchange type of machine with the E61 group head. And right now it's running La Marzocco portafilters with VST baskets. And so this little machine is... I think one of the things to bear in mind is that what is the big difference between this and a full-size La Marzocco is really capacity, right? But this one will get to the 1.5 bars of atmospheric pressure inside the steam boiler, meaning that it's right around 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And as long as you keep the water flowing through the group head, it will be right around 200 degrees for brewing. So it will do, and the steam pressure is enough to actually push the milk and make it foam. It will do quality espresso. Most machines, a lot of machines for the home will do can do quality espresso. The big thing is still the difference that someone like myself has a lot more time in the saddle, so to speak, making the drink, so I can pull more of the flavor out of it just instinctually based. Whereas if you're someone that hasn't, like I said earlier in this podcast, was that one of my suggestions to consumers is that, if you want to gain more experience, is to really buy extra coffee, buy extra milk, and basically practice. Just pull those shots, and you're trying to build, that repertoire of experience. So, for example, in a single day, I could pull 200-300 shots of espresso, which puts me, and the average consumer may pull 200 shots. It may take them half a year or more. So that's really the big thing there. And then what's the difference between this and a La Marzocco is just the La Marzocco's are bigger, so they have better capacity, meaning that they can pull more shots per hour with very little to no recovery time. Where this would, if you start pulling it on heavily, you're going to have to recover the machine because the boilers are smaller, the reservoirs are smaller, the drain tray is smaller, and you just run into production issues with that kind of size.
Little different.
No, this
topics.
is a family show,
Yeah.
Nick.
Sorry.
No, it's the repetition. I totally agree because we can work with a big 5-pound bag of coffee, and these guys are
and
working
we blow through it
with smaller quantities, with with machines that aren't the same.
Maybe coffee not as fresh.
Maybe. And the other thing though is I think they have a place in the world just as much as we do all this work with baristas and competitions to encourage better consuming knowledge. These guys are the consumers out there that are going to coffee shops and saying, what is that? There's no crema on that espresso. And so we're coming at it from both sides.
Right.
These are the grassroots efforts to get coffee shop owners to pay attention to what the consumers are saying.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. I mean.
Yeah, because I think people that are at home, they're not getting that repetition that Cindy's mentioning. And once they start to do that, I think their skills will improve tremendously.
Sure.
Just because they've had, because what it takes an average person at home, my God, it might take them months to pull as many shots as Bronwen will do in a day.
On a shift.
Yeah, in one shift.
And on a machine with like a boiler like 1/20th its size.
Yeah, and one thing I'm surprised with these guys that have their Rockies or their
Sylvia
mini majors or whatever, and they buy a pound of coffee and they're dialing it in. Well, crap, there's days I must have blown through at least a pound just to try to dial it in.
And you spent like half an hour trying to dial it in.
Yeah, and so I don't see if you have only a pound, well, God, I don't know how you can even do it. I mean, I'm at some level I'm very impressed. But I think if the ones that are right and say, hey, I can't get this right, I can't get that right, then my suggestion is go out and buy 5 pounds and then practice.
What I'd have to though say is there are definitely one of the things that's really interesting about the Coffee Geek and alt.coffee communities are that there are some folks out there that though they might not have commercial experience, arguably a lot more coffee experience than most. Baristas.
Yeah, they do know a lot about coffee.
Yeah. But that's not what I'm saying. Is that I'm saying that I read.
No, I just have
every
to kind
few
of
weeks
throw
on
that
the
out
board.
there.
There's somebody that starts a new thread. Hey, my technique here's this. I can't understand why this isn't working, or I don't understand why I'm getting all these spraying action with my naked portafilter. Well, dude, you need to keep practicing until you don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
Instead of complaining about it weekly.
These are guys who spend a lot of money investing on home equipment.
And Cindy knows certain ones of them very well.
I do know some very well. But they spend a lot of money investing on home equipment, and then they get some coffee, and because they want the freshest coffee, they know better. They know they want fresh coffee. They're putting in a half a pound maybe at most. Because at the same time, if they're going to go to the store to buy this coffee, they don't want to pour all of it into a grinder and waste it. They want to think about how they can buy it fresh, buy it in smaller quantities. Think about trying to do that in a grinder where there's the popcorn effect. And that would make it difficult to dial it in. So
Yeah.
So in many ways, Nick is right. They might know more than a lot of other professional baristas because they've worked so much harder at trying to make it work on their little system.
And a lot of times on more different coffees than the average barista. You know, if you work in a shop, then you work on your coffee. You know, but some of these guys, they try something different every week. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so hello to Dan Keene and Mr. Schulman and Jim Schulman, right? Schulman, yeah. And was it Abe NY? I think I met him in Seattle. He was a very nice guy.
I don't know Abe.
Abe and who else is up there? Anyway, so
Schechter.
Well, Schechter's but he's Schechter too, and some of the other guys. But
Marshall Fuss, he's another one.
Marshall Fuss is out there, and of course the illustrious, the lovely and talented Fortune Elkins.
Oh, my friend Fortune,
yeah, who I still haven't met yet. Someday.
Was she in Seattle?
Lovely.
She was there.
I don't know. I didn't see her.
I didn't see her.
I should rephrase that. I did meet her, but I didn't know I met her, and she just ran off. And then I was with Barry Jarrett, and I said, Barry, if you ever see Fortune, let her know that I'm looking for her because I'm looking forward to meeting her. And he was like, what are you talking about? She was right next to you.
Well, why didn't you introduce us?
Why
didn't you tell him that?
No, she talked to me.
Oh.
But,
she
but anyway.
didn't introduce herself.
Yeah, so someday. But
I've never met Fortune Elkins. I'd like to meet Fortune Elkins.
Fortune, there you go. Take
she
a look.
got to meet John Hornall.
Did you really?
She even got to eat dinner with John Hornall. That's not fair. Where's the love?
Yeah. Well, you got to be a New York coffee roaster if you want to hang out with Fortune, I think. But what I will say in closing to that particular thing, I have words for the professional baristas and professional coffee people out there regarding some of these
syrups.
These super coffee enthusiast type folks. We need to treat them nicely. We need to treat them well. Like I said, some of these guys, like it or not, actually have a different. Okay, I'll put it to you this way: there's a lot of things to learn from these folks, and a lot of these guys, they come into people's shops because they want that experience of that kind of be it Stumptown
interaction
or any or Heinz or that interaction with a professional who really is as passionate as they are or aspire to be, or maybe even more passionate. And the fact of the matter is that there have been times where some of these folks have been blown off, and it's not cool, And if there's any,
but remember, it also goes the other way around. Sometimes these folks come in just they're rude to the baristas. They're all like, "This isn't what I ordered," or da 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 da.
Well,
and granted, the barista may or may not know more than you, but they also have. If a line is forming, wait until the line is. Don't be rude to your barista, is what I'm saying.
Well, and we'll just say, there's no room for pissing contests when it comes to stuff like this. But if there's any...
I think they should realize that, within... let's say... I'm sure it's the same way in Murky, but in my company, while I hope that my staff is making quality beverages throughout the day, no matter who it is, because that's how I'm trying to train them, there's only a couple or 4 people that may really be into it to the point that they want to talk about the bean. They want to talk about that batch of Yemen we got was just freaking awesome. The rest of them, they're just kind of like, if someone came to them and be like, hey, what do you think about that blend and how's it rolling? They'd just be kind of like, what? They have to realize, I think they have, I think if you're an enthusiast, you need to realize that not everyone that's working in these shops that you've heard about is going to take it to the level as the person that you see representing that shop.
Agreed.
That's true, and but then I think a lot of times what upsets the professional folks, actually, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, comes from insecurity. People come and it's kind of like they feel like they're being called out.
It's nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking.
I can't perform 110% all the time. I do have off days. It is sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's the bean's fault.
And so I'm sure I don't know if you've had an experience like that, but you may have where it's like. Someone comes
Sometimes
in and then
I'm just in a grumpy mood.
And that night that night on Coffee Geek or whatever, someone writes well, I went to Heinz and it was Bronwen pulled me a shot. It was okay,
It's not my fault. It's all John Sanders. I blame it all on John.
Well,
I always blame everything on John.
But if there's any incentive for the folks who are professionals who don't want to show the big super fans as much respect, go watch the movie. Take a look at the life of singer Selena.
When you say super fans, though, how would
she was killed by the president of her fan club. You know,
but the thing is, the problem is that most of these baristas, including myself, and I'm sure Bronwen,
I like it when Coffee Geeks come to
No, but
visit.
half the guys that are on Coffee Geek walked in, you wouldn't know who they were.
Right.
And somebody started espousing.
They usually introduce themselves. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're that person. Thanks for introducing yourself. Let me get through this line. And they're pretty good about waiting till I'm done working to come up and say, hey, can you, do you have a second? I'll always take a second to talk to them.
Yeah, that's good.
It's.
But I mean, like, if you come in and you don't really, and they don't know who you are, then how can you really can't expect them to do what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
Well, what I will say,
because you got to remember, not everyone has, not every shop in America, or that's not every specialty coffee shop in America is subscribing to the same level of customer service.
True.
Or same theory of customer service.
And in a way, that I might almost say, that goes back to the whole article on Coffee Geek about professionalism and all that stuff. So I think that we have a lot to learn on all sides. Let's all take a pill and just look ourselves, the man in the mirror. Gonna make that change.
Gonna make that change.
Gonna feel real good. Anyway, jump on.
I'm doing the moonwalk right now.
Yeah.
Right on.
I think everyone needs to look at themselves and realize, we all need to. Can't we all just get along? Can't we all just get along? No, I don't.
I'll beat you up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's this big war going on out there, but at the same time, it has been an issue.
Oh, but it's coming.
It's coming. The espresso war is coming.
Pretty soon, those Coffee Geek and Alti guys are going to rise up in arms. They're going to be brandishing their Sylvia's Portafilters to come crashing through your door. And you'll just have to hold them. There's Bronwen. She's pushing them back with the 5 group. Holy crap. Where's Sanders behind him? He's traveling too much. They'd be like, hey, bud, what's going on back in the shop? Hope you're not leading over there.
But we started talking about it. Coffee Geek and Mark, and I'll say the same thing about Mark. Everyone, there's a lot of talk around Mark Prince and stuff, and he's a good friend, and we talk pretty often enough where, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but he's a great guy. He knows a lot about coffee, more than most people. But more than anything, he is kind of the epicenter of a lot of different segments of our industry, whether we like it or not. And so the guy deserves, our thanks for all the good that he's done, and I think...
Thank you, Mark, for making my consumers more knowledgeable.
There you go. Are you crossing your fingers?
No.
Okay, good. Jay, you got anything nice to say about Mark?
Mark, he, several weeks ago, I was in Vancouver, Canada, and I was lost and lonely. I was actually at, what was the place called? Elysian Room.
Is this about spooning with Mark?
And Mark was very kind enough to take us out to eat, took us around on a tour of Vancouver, the great coffee shops, Prado, Artigiano, JJ Bean.
Nice.
So I had a wonderful time with
Artigiano.
Mark. Artigiano. Yeah, and those guys, they're pumping.
Yeah?
Those guys pump.
Nice.
They do.
My God.
Hardcore, baby.
Yeah, I mean, 5 group. Line must have been 20 deep for, the whole time we were there.
Not just one shop, all shops. All of their shops are like that.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay. Good stuff. Bronwen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Nick and Jay.
It's so nice to see you over here on the East Coast.
I never come to the East Coast enough.
When was the last time you were here? Atlanta?
No, actually, it was last year at my cousin's wedding.
Where was that?
New York.
Oh, you didn't come down to D.C. to see us?
I had family to take care of.
Family schmamily.
My coffee family needs to take a break sometimes.
All right.
Well. I can't have my life run by coffee all the time. So,
good. This has been the Portafilter podcast for Saturday. For Saturday, June 18th, on behalf of myself and Jay, party on, Jay.
Party on, Nick.
Our guest host this day, Bronwen Serna. Party on, Bronwen.
Party on, Nick.
And thanks to everyone listening, and closing out another good podcast. Mahalo.
Podcast, party on, excellent.
Bye, y'all.
All right, and that was the podcast from June 2005. Thanks for watching. I don't know what to say. So, interesting stuff. It's interesting to listen back to these old ones and just reflect on what's changed and what's the same. It's interesting, like the lack of critical journalism is still the same. The I don't know if it's inability or perhaps the chosen ignorance of competitors not to know the score sheets and the rules is still the same. We're still battling some of the same issues 18 years later. Again, but some things have changed as well. And, you've heard, some of the people you heard today was like Cindy Chang. She is now executive director of World Coffee Events, where back then she was just a hemisphere coordinator, where, people have progressed on and have gone on to do other things. And it was interesting for me to listen to this because a number of people like Fortune Elkins is a name that I haven't even heard in years. I wonder what happened to some of these people that were so involved in the industry way back when. But that's pretty much what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below, especially if you're watching on the replay. Happy to discuss any of the material that we talked about here today. And like I said, we also have the coffee Q&A live streams that we do every once in a while, and every Thursday night we have our nightly hang on Thursdays for a couple hours. We start at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we do coffee and cigars. So if you have the time, you want to hang out with us, come join us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, that was the Portafilter Redux live stream version. Let me know also what you think, if you like the live stream or the recorded content better. Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Mom. Glad you guys liked it. If you like this better than the if you've watched the 2 previous episodes and you like the live stream better, let me know. We can do more of that. We've got like 75 episodes available for us to review, so this could last a little while. All right, well, thank you very much for tuning in. See you guys next time, and have a great one.